Story 9. I used the word table in a meeting, and my boss thought the opposite. My name is Priya. I grew up in London. I studied at university there. I worked in London for 3 years. Then I got a job at a company in New York. Same industry, better role, more money. I was excited. My English was perfect, obviously. I was born in England. I had spoken English my entire life. So I was completely unprepared for what happened in my second week. I was in a team meeting. We were discussing a list of new project ideas. One idea had been raised. It was interesting. I thought it deserved more discussion. I raised my hand. I said, clearly and professionally, I think we should table this idea. It deserves a proper conversation. My American manager nodded. 2 colleagues exchanged a glance. The meeting moved on. The idea was never discussed. A week later, I asked my colleague Marcus, whatever happened to the idea I tabled in last week's meeting? Marcus looked at me. You tabled it, he said. So we set it aside. I blinked. No, I tabled it because I wanted to discuss it. Marcus blinked back at me. Those are the same word. They were, and they were not. Repeat this sentence with me. The same word can mean opposite things in different countries. Good. Let's begin. Par un contexte. Priya had never had a language problem in her professional life. She had a strong vocabulary. She wrote clear, precise emails. She presented with confidence. She was well liked at her previous job. The idea that a native English speaker could have a language barrier in an English-speaking workplace was to her almost unthinkable. But language is not one thing. As we learned in EP 07 with Claire, and her rubber British English and American English are the same language, but they are not identical. Repeat. British English and American English are the same language, but not identical. Good. And while most differences are small words for food, words for clothing, words for rooms, some differences are more serious. Some differences can change the entire outcome of a meeting. The word table is one of them, too. The mistake. Let's look carefully at both meanings. In British English and in Australian, Canadian, and most other varieties of English outside the United States, to table something means to bring it to the table, to put it forward, to introduce it for discussion right now. I would like to table this proposal. Equals. I would like to present this proposal for immediate discussion. Repeat. In British English, table equals bring forward, for discussion now. Good. In American English, to table something means to set it aside, to postpone it, to remove it from the current discussion, and deal with it later, or possibly never. Let's table that equals. Let's put that aside for now. We will not discuss it today. Repeat. In American English, table equals postpone, set aside. Good. The same verb, the same spelling, the same pronunciation, opposite meanings. This happened because, in British English, table, as a verb, comes from the image of putting something on the table, bringing it into the room, making it visible, making it part of the conversation. In American English, the evolution went the other way. Table came to mean putting something back on the shelf, away from the conversation, not on the table anymore. Repeat. Same word, opposite meanings, depending on which country you are in. Part 3. The correct alternatives. Because table causes so much confusion, between British and American speakers, the safest approach is to avoid it entirely in international or mixed workplaces and use a clearer phrase instead. Lasla, when you want to discuss something now, I'd like to bring this up for discussion. Clear, unambiguous, works in every English-speaking country. Repeat. I'd like to bring this up for discussion. Can we discuss this now? Direct and simple. Repeat. Can we discuss this now? To May. I think this deserves more conversation today. Warm and professional. Repeat. I think this deserves more conversation today. When you want to postpone something, let's set this aside for now. Neutral and clear. Repeat. Let's set this aside for now. Can we come back to this next week? Friendly and specific. Repeat. Can we come back to this next week? Let's park that for now and revisit it later. Park is a common business expression for setting something aside temporarily. Repeat. Let's park that for now. Part 4. Why this happens. Same word, opposite meanings. Today's story shows us one of the most surprising things about language. Words do not just have different meanings in different languages. Sometimes the same word in the same language develops opposite meanings in different countries. This happens because language evolves separately in different places. British English and American English have been developing independently for over 400 years. Most of the time, they go in the same direction, but sometimes, as with table, they go in opposite directions. There are other words like this. Let's look at 2. Bomb. In British English slang, something that is excellent. A performance that bombed at a comedy club in the UK means it was a great success. In American English slang, to bomb means to fail completely. A film that bombed in the US flopped. Repeat. In Britain, it bombed equals it was great. In America, it bombed equals it failed. Quite. In British English, quite good equals moderately good. Faint praise, not very enthusiastic. In American English, quite good equals very good. Strong praise. Repeat. In Britain, quite good equals okay. In America, quite good equals very good. The lesson. In any cross-cultural English conversation, if a word could be ambiguous, replace it with something clearer. Repeat. If a word could be ambiguous, replace it with something clearer. Part 5. Meeting and Business English Vocabulary. Let's learn the real English phrases, used in meetings phrases, that work clearly in both British and American professional settings. I'd like to raise a point. Introducing a new idea or concern. Natural in any meeting. Repeat. I'd like to raise a point. Can I add something here? Asking permission to contribute to the discussion. Repeat. Can I add something here? Let's come back to that. Postponing a topic briefly to return to it later. Repeat. Let's come back to that. Let's park that for now. Setting something aside for later. Common in British and American business English. Repeat. Let's park that for now. I'd like to revisit this. Bringing something back that was set aside. Repeat. I'd like to revisit this. To summarise. Beginning the conclusion of a discussion. Repeat. To summarise our key points. Moving on. Signalling a transition To the next topic. Repeat. Moving on to the next item. Does everyone agree? Checking for consensus. Repeat. Does everyone agree with this approach? Let's take a vote. Asking the group to make a decision formally. Repeat. Let's take a vote on this. Part 6. Story resolution. Marcus explained everything to Priya that afternoon in the office kitchen. She listened carefully. Then she laughed. So when I said I'd like to table this idea, everyone heard I'd like to set this aside. Exactly, said Marcus. Your manager tabled it. It went to the back of the list. Priya shook her head. I have spoken English my entire life, she said. And this is the first time I have ever needed a translation. Marcus smiled. Welcome to American English. The following week, the same idea came up again. This time, Priya raised her hand and said, I'd like to bring this back for discussion. I think it has real potential. Her manager nodded. Good call. Let's look at it. And they did. Repeat. Clear language gets clear results. Vocabulary review. Table, in British English, equals bring forward, for discussion now. Table, in American English, equals set aside, postpone. The safest solution, avoid table, in international settings. Repeat. Let's bring this up for discussion. I'd like to bring this up for discussion. Clear alternative to table when you want to discuss something. Repeat. I'd like to bring this up for discussion. Let's park that for now. Common business phrase for setting something aside, temporarily. Repeat. Let's park that for now. Let's come back to this. A gentle way to postpone, without dismissing. Repeat. Can we come back to this next week? I'd like to raise a point. Introducing a new idea in a meeting. Repeat. I'd like to raise a point. Moving on. Transitioning to the next topic. Repeat. Moving on to the next item. To summarise. Beginning your conclusion. Repeat. To summarise our key points. D, R, D, 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 D. Does everyone agree? Checking for group consensus. Repeat. Does everyone agree? Ambiguous. A word or phrase that could mean more than one thing. Repeat. If a word is ambiguous, use something clearer. Closing. Priya still works at that company in New York. She is now one of the best presenters on the team, but she never uses the word table in a meeting. Instead, she says exactly what she means. Let's discuss this now. Or, let's set this aside for next week. No ambiguity, no confusion, no idea ever lost in translation. This is what professional English is really about. Not just knowing the words, but knowing which words communicate clearly to the specific people in the room. Repeat one final time. Say exactly what you mean every time. Subscribe for next Wednesday, because someone accepted an invitation, said, I'll take a rain check, and then waited outside in the rain. See you then.